In this video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts and honest review on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and let you guys know how the game is in 2021 and whether you should buy it. Also, only 3% of you who watch my videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and it really motivates me to keep making these videos. Anyway, on with the review. Jedi Fallen Order takes place in a dark time in the galaxy. It takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, after the Jedi were betrayed and purged by the clones during Order 66. The main character is Cal Kestis, a young and inexperienced Padawan who survived the purge and has been hiding from the Empire ever since. I found Cal to be a great protagonist for the game, and he was very enjoyable to watch and play as. He has this great youthful, fun charisma, he's always making jokes, which balances well with the darker and more emotional side of him, who is heavily traumatized from Order 66 and still struggles to move past it. The side cast is also fantastic. Cere and Grease are great characters who balance the tone of the story and make Cal's journey more fun and entertaining. There's also Cal's fun and adorable droid companion BD-1. Grease serves as the comic relief who's always making fun, and Cere is a very well developed character who serves as a mentor and guide to Cal, as she was also once a Jedi who went through some very tragic events during the purge. This story is very dark, but the characters bring lots of warmth to the story that really give it a lot of heart, and they make you care and become invested into what happens to them. The Inquisitors were also a very good choice for the antagonists, I think. They're these broken and disturbed former Jedi who gave into the dark side after constant torture and horror. They also serve as what Cal would have become had he not escaped the Empire's wrath. The second sister is the main villain here, and she is very well done. She has a connection to the characters that I won't spoil, but it makes the rivalry between her and Cal cool to watch and makes the stakes of the stories much higher. I liked the idea of Cal and friends searching for the Jedi holocron of Force-sensitive children so they can rebuild the Jedi Order. The one downside is that it's predictable in the sense that everything doesn't go according to plan, since we know that the Jedi Order doesn't return until after episode 6. Either way, I still found the end to be satisfying and a great setup for the sequel, and there were some awesome cameos. If you played this game, you know the one I'm talking about. The gameplay of Jedi Fallen Order is a hybrid of many successful modern games. The combat, checkpoints, and bosses are resemblant of Dark Souls. The platforming is similar to Uncharted, with movement and combos resembling God of War. Now, the gameplay isn't as good as any of those games it tries to be, but Jedi Fallen Order hits this nice balance where the gameplay still feels satisfying and enjoyable without being overly complicated or hard to learn. The lightsaber combat is solid. The lightsaber strikes feel weighted and heavy, although I don't think the game properly represents the power of lightsabers. You can slash an enemy multiple times across the torso and they will still be alive with plenty of health, and when you slice right through a stormtrooper's limbs, they don't dismember, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense and was kind of a bummer to me. So the lightsaber combat is good and fun. I do think other Star Wars games have done a better job of properly portraying them though. However, I did really enjoy the lightsaber customization. You can choose the color, material, all the different parts of the lightsaber to make it feel more personalized to you. And an update even added the ability to use a red lightsaber, which I really appreciated. Even though it makes no sense why a Jedi would be carrying a red lightsaber, it just looks too cool to not use. You can also use the double blade, which was good for crowd control and deflecting gunfire, while the single blade was better for duels and a smaller number of enemies. You also have your force push, force pull, and the ability to slow, which was a lot of fun to use and often led to me force pushing enemies off a cliff to avoid a direct fight like a coward. There's some cool abilities with your lightsaber as well, with things like an overhead strike and lightsaber throw, and they could have done a lot more with it, but it was still really fun, and hopefully there will be a lot more cool Jedi skills we can unlock in the sequel. There's also a fairly large variety of enemy types that each have different health, stamina, movesets, and weaknesses that you have to learn and adapt to if you want to properly exploit them, especially on the Grandmaster difficulty, which is what I played on. Grandmaster difficulty was a pretty large challenge. I wouldn't say it's as hard as Dark Souls, which I've heard a lot of people say, but it is still really challenging, and some boss fights could take me close to up to an hour to finally complete. So lots of rage moments, you know how it is. But that's just part of the fun of these soul type games, and the sense of accomplishment you feel afterwards is incredible. You feel like you've just conquered the world and nothing can stop you now until you get to the next boss. Now if you're a coward, you could play on an easier difficulty and still have a somewhat good time, but true gamers will take up the Grandmaster challenge and feel that amazing satisfaction once you complete the game. Now a lot of the times when you're not in combat, you will be doing an extensive amount of platforming, which does get a little boring and repetitive after a while, and some of the sections will have you bouncing like Mario. Looks a little ridiculous. Exploration is a big thing in this game as well. All the planets have different areas and locations you can stray off to where you may find some cool items or upgrades even. To be honest, the incentive to explore for me wasn't all that great. I get easily lost in these kind of games, and there's not a lot of strong upgrades and advantages you get for exploring, so the incentive wasn't always there for me. There's also a few puzzles in the game, which I'm not a huge fan of because I suck at them, but they weren't too hard and they were quite easy in comparison to some of the puzzles from Tomb Raider and Uncharted. The customization options are decent. You can customize Cal, BD1, and even the ship, but for some reason all Cal's clothing options are these ponchos, which I think it would have been really cool if they put, I don't know, some Jedi robes or cloaks as an option, because ponchos isn't exactly what I was expecting my character to wear when I'm playing a game as a Jedi. Thankfully they added the Inquisitor uniform to go with my red lightsaber so I can roleplay as Darth Kestis, the all-powerful Sith Lord. The world of Fallen Order consists of many planets, from the sprawling forests of Kashyyyk to the dry deserts of Dathomir. There are 5 planets you can explore and play through in Jedi Fallen Order, and each one has its own unique environment that heavily differs from the others. I like how Fallen Order combined the well-known planets along with some lesser-known planets in the Star Wars universe like Bogano and Zepho. Each world has lots of opportunities for exploration, and each place has enemies and wildlife specific to the planet. There's also some cool artifacts or structures you can scan with BD1 if you want to learn more about the little details and how they factor into the culture of the planet. My personal favorite was Dathomir because it's where one of the most badass Sith is from, and I've also seen it quite a bit in the Clone Wars TV series, so getting to play and explore the planet was very cool. Some of the planets like Kashyyyk, for example, just have these breathtaking views with incredible draw distance, and it makes the game feel really immersive. Now, in terms of presentation, the graphics look really good. Jedi Fallen Order uses Unreal 4, which is a fantastic engine and is different from what EA has been using for Star Wars games, which is Frostbite. The graphics in Fallen Order look really good, well, except for the Wookiees, and it's arguably the best looking Star Wars game ever made. I'd say it's between Fallen Order and Battlefront 2, but either way, you're getting a very pleasant game to look at. The performance on PC is also very good, considering how great the game looks. At 1440p with ultra settings with my RTX 2070 Super and i5 9600K gaming rig, I was running an average of 80 to 90 FPS, so a very smooth experience. There are a lot of areas where I experienced some weird frame drops, and it was usually caused by the world rendering when taking an elevator or squeezing through a wall, but thanks to this, the amount of loading screens you have to wait through in this game are very minimal, and even when traveling to different planets, you don't have to go through a loading screen, which was very impressive, especially for an EA game. That being said though, the game is not great with saving. There's no option for manual save, and the autosave is a little risky. I don't really trust it that much. There were a few times where I would log back onto the game and be much further behind than when I was when I logged off, which can be frustrating, especially if it makes you redo a boss fight. In terms of bugs though, I experienced hardly any. In fact, I can't really recall any off the top of my head, and all the bugs were very minor. The game does just have this overall slight clunkiness feel to it with the movement and all that, but you get used to it and adapt. I've played The Witcher 3, so I'm well used to that stuff. It's also probably worth mentioning I had no crashes in my playthrough either, so pretty good performance wise, and it was nice to see that the game is now pretty well polished because it did have quite a lot of bugs on its launch. Now, one thing about Jedi Fallen Order that may bother some of you is that the game doesn't have a lot of replayability. It's one of those games that when you finish it, you're pretty much done. There is exploration, but there's no real incentive to explore once you've already finished the game, and you've pretty much got all you were going to get out of the game already. They did add an arena/training mode, which can keep you busy for a little while, and there is New Game Plus, which is what I did, but that's about it. And it doesn't seem there are any any plans for DLC, especially with the sequel likely coming out this year. So, should you buy Jedi Fallen Order in 2021? Yes, especially if you are a Star Wars fan, you will really enjoy the game and all the fun Star Wars lore baked into it. It's not the longest game in the world, and there isn't a whole lot of replayability, but it will give you a good time, and with it often being on sale and available for a cheap price, why not try it out? The story and characters have heart, and it was enjoyable to experience, and the combat is fun, and it can be pretty challenging with Grandmaster difficulty. I'd say this is definitely the best Star Wars game EA has made, in my opinion, and if they can make more fun Star Wars single player games like this, then that would be fantastic. Still waiting on some large open world RPG Star Wars game. I think that would be so awesome, but until then, Jedi Fallen Order is good enough. And yeah, that about wraps up my thoughts on the game. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought of Jedi Fallen Order, or if this video helped you decide to buy it. If you enjoyed the video, again, you can thank me by leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. I also have a Discord server you can join if you want to discuss or play some games with me and others. And other than that, thank you for watching, guys, and have a great rest of your day.